Hello and welcome to episode 221 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is February 19th, 2024. Today I'm wearing two fairly old things. The scarf I crocheted from 2014 to 2015. Sounds like a really long time for a simple scarf, but for some reason it took me about a year to finish those 5 granny squares. It's the same yarn as the that I used for the shawl that I wore last week, so it's the Rigato by Wollerödel, and I used one ball of yarn, 50-gram ball of yarn for each of those squares. And this is the second scarf that I crocheted that way. And the first one was crocheted in blue and turquoise and grey colours, and I used that to showcase the new colours of the yarn. And maybe that's a reason that it took so long for this one to get finished. Maybe I was waiting for new colours to be produced. I don't remember. Anyway, my original... So the first scarf I crocheted just to show the new colors, and then the second scarf I crocheted because I really liked the first one. But my idea was if I did 2 more scarves like that, I could sew them together and I'd have a blanket. So yeah, but I never did that because I really like the 2 scarves. I like to wear them as scarves, so I never managed to get a blanket. And then with all the leftover yarn, I once started a big square because I wanted to crochet it into one big square blanket. But then my sister saw it, so I finished it for her instead of for myself. I'm still collecting leftover bits and single balls of Rigato yarn, so maybe one day I'll be crocheting a blanket for myself. If I do, you'll know about it. Yeah, so that's a scarf. For some reason, took me a year to finish it. I really like it. It's the yarn that I really like. And then this pullover I knit in 2018, and according to Ravelry, it took me 2 weeks to knit the whole pullover, which is a bit crazy, but that's the way I used to work before I had the podcast, and I was sort of trying to get things to grow at a not similar rate, but try to work on several projects so I have something to show. I used to sometimes concentrate on just one and do nothing else for 2 weeks than the one project. So I guess that's how I managed to finish the pullover in 2 weeks' time. It's some drops yarn. Should be on the Ravelry page. Could be drops Fabel, but I'm not quite sure. No, Fabel I think is a sock yarn. Maybe it's Big Delight? I don't know. If you want to know, you can check the Ravelry page. The pattern that I used for this pullover is from the book November Knits by Kate Gagnon Osborne and Courtney Kelly. Guess that's 2 people. So this is the first project in the book, and I really liked the way this was knit. This is not my color at all, so looks quite different to mine in the colorway, but you can see it's sort of a broken rib pattern. And one of the things that I like about this pullover is you can turn it around, so I can wear it inside out. And the rib pattern looks a bit different because this is where the ribs are broken, interrupted, and it's more obvious on this side than on this side. But I tried to weave the ends in a way that I can wear it both inside out and outside out. Anyway, I can wear it both ways. I really like that, especially now when I'm still taking off clothes and putting on clothes because I get warm and cold, even though the outside temperature doesn't change because my inner heating is broken. It's good to have something that's easy to take off and put on, so I can just turn it around while I take it off and then put it on this way and then turn it around again when I take it off the next time. Yeah, so this is, that's why it's quite practical at the moment. Yeah, I think that's everything I need to say about the things I'm wearing. Then on to finished objects, and this week I have 3 finished objects and I only have 2 new cast-ons, so I think that's a good thing. Forgot to put the nude on one of my projects, but I would have known anyway. Anyway, so the oldest project that I finished are the socks that I knit from the book Soxx Look. And this is what they look like now. They're both done. And I will never, well, you shouldn't say never, but I shouldn't try and predict opal yarn, because I predicted that there won't be any purple in the toe, because in the first sock, I started the heel with purple and then it took to the very end of the toe for the purple to reappear. But with the second sock, it was in the second half of the heel, and still the toe more or less started off with the purple. No idea why that was. And so instead of a blue toe, I have a purple and grey and yellow and blue toe. But otherwise, I'm really happy with the way the socks look. I know my cousin is going to be very happy once she gets them. She loved the colors and she loved the pattern, and she's always happy to receive hand knit socks. So I hope to see her again soon so I can give them to her. Yeah, opal sock yarn, the usual. The second oldest project that I finished is the On Target hat by Sarah Shearer. So this is the first pattern that she designed for Leading Man Fiber Arts. You can use five minis that have 20 grams, but you'll have lots of leftover, especially if you knit this size, which is, I think, adult small, and the whole hat weighs less than 50 grams. And with 5 times 20 grams, you'd have 100 grams, and I didn't even use up half of it. So that was quite surprising, but also quite nice. I did change the stripe pattern a little bit because I wanted to make sure that I get to the dark grey before I finish. So the pattern calls for 10 round stripes, which I did until I think this one or that one. I started to make the stripes a bit shorter to make sure that I get to the last or to the first color again. I think the jogless stripe method that she describes really works, so I can't tell. But then again, with the as I don't have solid colors throughout, 3 of the colors are solid, the dark gray, and the green, but then there's 2 colorways that's sort of mixed, and I think that's part of the reason that the lines aren't quite as clear, so it's easier to get these jogless stripes. I think this is, yeah, so this is the beginning and end of round, and if you look really closely, this is probably the step there. But on the whole, I think I hit them quite well, really happy with it. And even though I knit the size small, I can wear the hat. I thought it would be too small for me, but it's okay. So this width is really good. For the widest part, I think if I do it again, I would probably make it a bit bigger. So I'd have even more to slouch around like this. So this is one way of wearing the hat. You can pull it to one side. I think this is the way we used to wear this kind of hats earlier. But you can also just put it to the back. I could even put all my hair inside. And I think the way she wears the hat is she pushes it behind the hairline like this, and she lets it hang. So I think this looks fairly elegant, but it's not quite as warm. And I think I'd be afraid to lose the hat. So I think if I kept the hat, I would always wear it into down on my forehead over the eyes, and then I would either pull it this way or that way. I don't know. But it was a fairly quick knit. I was quite surprised. Really liked the hat, and got a hair in my face. Yeah, so that's finished. Probably won't be the last time I knit this pattern. I really liked it. And the third finished object is just a tiny little one. It's the 2 banana socks that I knit out of this yellow yarn. And so without sock blockers, they look even more like bananas because they're sort of round. And with the brown tip, the brown toe, I just love that. I brought 2 different sock blockers. So this is size 17-18 and this is size 19-20. And yeah, you can see that the sock is going to grow with the baby, and it can wear the sock for quite a while. Yep, really happy. and now I'm done with banana socks for the time being. I'm not saying I'll never knit them again, but probably not this year, maybe next year. We'll see about that. There we go. Okay, then on to works in progress, and I start with my sock, and that's the first sock that I want to show you is the Showbiz sock. I'm using this opal yarn called Showbiz, and I finished sock number 1. So this is for my sister, and she loves shorty socks, so that's why I didn't knit a very long leg. I put these in to count my rounds, and then the toe looks a bit funny on the sock blocker. And the reason for that is that my sister asked me to do an anatomical toe. So she sent me a pattern on Instagram to show how that works, and I tried it out, and this is what it looks like. So you decrease mainly on one side, and then only in the end you decrease on both sides, and then you Kitchener stitch the rest of the stitches together, and that means you get a right and a left sock. So here's the heel, so this is obviously the left sock, and then when I finish the second sock I'll have to make sure to do the decreases on the other side, so I get a right sock, and then she has socks that she always knows which one to put on the right foot and which one on the left foot. I have started the second sock. I haven't come very far yet, but that's okay, it's on the way, and yeah, I just have to make sure to remember the toe, to do the right toe when I get there. And the next sock that's on the needle, that's my first new cast on for today, and that's the Sock Madness qualifying sock pattern. So the Sock Madness has started again. I did sign up, I think I told you about that. And then last week, the first pattern was sent to everyone who signed up. And the qualifying pattern is called Hydra Scales, I think. And I forgot to write down the designer. I'll try and remember that next week. And the sock called for 3 colors. 2 colors, you need a bit more of the main color than of the contrast color one. So I chose this beautiful red, pink, or orange pink color from the Funny Fruit series that I showed you last week, and my first contrast color is this beautiful, is it purple? Not quite sure what to call this color, but I really like them together. And for the third color, you only need 10 grams. So I picked a 10-gram mini by Opal in this green color and decided to have that as the contrast color too. And I divided the 10 grams skein into 4 equal parts to knit into the sock. And I have finished the heel. So it has this, I think it's either called a strong heel or a fleagle heel, I think. So that's done. And I'll now show you the pattern from the front and back. So the stripes are knit in helical knitting, so it's a jogless stripe, and then you have 2 cables in the main color and contrast color 1, and then the contrast color 2, you have 2 of those mini balls for each of those lines that run down the front of the foot, the leg and the foot, and then the back of the leg had 2 more of those of those green mini skeins. That's why I divided the 10 grams into 4 equal parts, so I could have 2 on the back. And the 2 mini skeins that I used for those, I'm going to use for the front of the next sock and vice versa. So that should be enough yarn to finish these little cables. Yeah, and otherwise I'm just trying to get them done fairly quickly. There's a bit of a rip pattern on the back of the heel. Yeah, otherwise not much that I can say about them right now. Traditionally, I always donate my qualifying socks for the to the organization who help women with ovarian cancer, and they ask for green socks, but they don't specify how much green there has to be in the sock. Even a little green is enough. So this is why I pick green as the contrast color too, to make sure I can donate these to the green socks. And that's what I'm planning to do. I'm knitting the minimum requirement size, and as it's going to be donated, I'm sure there will be some woman somewhere who will hopefully be happy to get these socks, to give her some help and information and all the things that this group of people do. Yeah, so that's it for socks. I'm only knitting on 2 pairs of socks. That's not a lot. Okay, the next, because of the sock madness, even though it's the qualifying pattern, I have 2 weeks time, I still try to get as far as possible, and it means I neglected some of my other projects. So I'm not going to show the baby cardigan that I'm knitting as part of the pattern battle. I did not knit on the double knitting cowl, remember cowl, the black and red one, and I also did not knit on the skirt because that's not really important. I do want to continue on it, but it wasn't that important. So I'm not going to show these 3, but I'm going to show you the next new cast on. And some cast ons that you do are fairly spontaneous and something that you either found the yarn or the pattern and you want to start straight away, or something like the sock madness that's not in my hand when I do the cast on. I just do it when the pattern comes. But this cast on is something that I've been planning since 2017. And that's when I knit this hat. So this is Sandnes yarn. This is a Norwegian yarn that I bought when I was in Sweden. And this is a Tin Can Knits pattern. I think it's called Prism, not quite sure. But yeah, I knit this hat. I'm quite happy with it. But once I finished it, I realized it was a tiny bit too short. So I can wear it. And especially if it's not too cold, it's fine that it doesn't cover the ears completely. But I had so much yarn left over that I decided I'm going to knit another hat with the leftover yarn. And now, 7 years later, I'm actually doing it. So with this hat, I used most of the dark grey because I did the ribbing in the dark grey. And then I used the other 3 colors. And with the second hat, I decided I'll do the ribbing with the light and middle grey. And then I'll do stripes with all the 3 colors. So that's what I've done. I've cast on the same number of stitches because that really fits well. And I knitted as much of the light grey as I could so that I had the same amount left over as I had from the dark grey. And now I'm doing the same with the middle grey. And then the stripes that I'm going to knit are inspired by a pattern out of this book, Hatitude by Kathy Karen. And this is a hat I've knit several times, but I've given them all away, so I don't have a hat in that pattern anymore. So this is what it looks like, and it's just another broken rib pattern. And she also uses 3 different shades of grey, so it really fits well. And yeah, that's what I'm planning to do. So just finish the ribbing until I have the same amount of that color as of the other 2 colors, and then I'm going to knit the other 3. I'm going to knit the broken rib pattern with all 3 colors until I run almost out of yarn, and then I'll quickly do some decreases. Something like that. That's the plan. Yeah, so finally. Oh, by the way, I was saying I knit the pullover in 2 weeks. This hat I knit in 2 days. But then a hat, you can even knit a hat in 1 day if you really want to. So then on to some project that you already know. I did knit on the Geogradient shawl. I did that before the Sock Madness pattern dropped. And again, I managed to knit a whole stripe last week. And this is going to be the last whole stripe. So now my, the edge is, I think it's about twice the size it's supposed to be. I don't know, but I think it's a nice size now. I'm really happy with the way it looks, and I'm also rather tired of knitting the pattern. So this week or next week, we'll see. I want to do one more round of a row of dip stitches and then one more row of knitting 2 together through the back loop. And then I'll do the I-cord cast off. So I hope to get at least some of it done this week. And then maybe I'll finish it, or maybe I'll finish it next week. We'll see about that. But I'm really looking forward to having this shawl finished, and looking forward to wearing it. Yeah, that's Alpaka sock yarn by Hansa Farm. Beautiful yarn. I'll explain in detail what I used when I finished it. So that's that. And then, I crocheted on my summer pullover. I'm crocheting squares from Shelley Husband's book, Granny Square Patchwork. And this started off as a circle, as you can see. So it was round for a very long time. Last time I showed it to you, which I think wasn't last week, I had already started squaring it off into a square. And now I actually finished doing that. So the last 2 rounds that I've crocheted, I crocheted the same kind of stitches for all 4 sides and just did a few increases in the corner. And now what I need to do is I have to compare it to my first square, because I added a few rounds on that one. And I want to make sure that I end with the same number of stitches as the first square. And that should also make it the same size. Even if it's not exactly the same, I think I can block it to be the same size. And then I can think about which squares to do for the sleeves. And I also crocheted on my Whispering Pines pullover. So that's the winter crochet pullover that I'm doing out of the book. Something like Modern Crochet Sweaters, I think. And the first sleeve was finished. I had started the second sleeve and I almost finished it. Without the Sock Madness pattern, maybe I could have finished it, because I finished all the decreases. So all that's left to do is do those straight rounds here. And I did maybe 2 rounds. So if I do the decreases on, so this is all that's left to be crocheted on the sleeve, and then both sleeves will be done, and then I can start crocheting the front and back. This is 8-ply sock yarn by Opal. It's one of this year's colors from the series Frosty Ice. Yeah, so that's really good. And then I knit a little bit on the dress that I started knitting last week. So this is the yarn that I sort of had custom made in this yarn factory in Hamburg. And yeah, so the yoke is growing. This is the back of the dress, so that's fairly deep now. You can see the increase lines fairly clearly, I think, which is as per pattern. This is the raglan increase, which has different increases for sleeve and front and back. And this is the front of the dress that looks fairly small because it keeps rolling, but it's not that small anymore. I've already tried it on once and realized I have to do quite a bit more. But yeah, I will probably knit another 4 rounds or something and then try it on again just to see how far I have to go, how much more I have to knit. But I really enjoy finally using this yarn after so many years of having it sitting around. Mamaki by Nicolor. Wonderful maximum freedom pattern. You can use any yarn, any gauge. Very good. And that brings me to the Haramaki, to our knit along. So I am using Opal sock yarn on this side, and I'm using a grey merino sock yarn by Hansa Farm. On the other side, I'm knitting 2-color brioche without any additional pattern. So it's a fairly simple knit, but it's still one I have to keep looking at because of the brioche and because I'm knitting both colors at the same time. I have to make sure I always have the yarn over my stitch, and I'm always grabbing both strands of yarn. So I'm trying to be really careful with that. Yeah, so this just keeps growing bit by bit. And I'm looking forward to knitting quite a bit longer on this one. This won't be finished not in 2 days and not in 2 weeks, maybe in 2 months. That should work. Yeah, so that was fairly quick today, but that's one of the things that can happen if I'm concentrating on a sock madness pattern. It wasn't that bad this week because the pattern only arrived at the end of the week and I'm not in that much of a hurry. It might be different with when the rounds of the sock madness start. I might spend more time on just the one project and less on the other. But so far it has never taken me a whole week to knit a pair of socks for the sock madness. So there's always at least some time to knit on the other projects. I hope you still enjoyed the video, even if it was a bit shorter, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!